Welcome back to our reflections on the Sunday Gospels, presented by the Centre for Christian Spirituality at Randwick. Today we're going to reflect on the Gospel of the 12th Sunday of Ordinary Time. We invite you now to listen to the Gospel being read.
Once, when Jesus was praying alone, with only the disciples near him, he asked them, "Who do the crowds say that I am?" They answered, "John the Baptist, but others Elijah, and still others, that one of the ancient prophets has arisen." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered, "The Messiah of God." He sternly ordered and commanded them not to tell anyone, saying, "The Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders, chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised." Then he said to them all, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their crosses daily and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will save it."
It is very Lucan to situate an incident with Jesus at prayer. He likes to do that. And this is an important scene because really it's the heart of the Gospel, a climax that occurs at the very centre of the Gospel. Unlike Mark, Luke doesn't present the apostles as having all the difficulties that Mark does. But in both cases, the confession of Jesus as Messiah is a major event. But of course, Luke is careful to say, don't talk about me being Messiah. You have to know the sort of Messiah that I'm going to be. And he goes on to talk about the fact that it's going to be a suffering Messiah. And that's going to have implications for his followers, because those who are going to follow him have to take up their cross daily. I wonder about taking up your cross daily, but I think it comes out if we recognise that the importance of Calvary is not what they did to Jesus, but what Jesus did. In other words, it was what was in the heart of Jesus that actually gives meaning to what happened to Jesus on Calvary. And I think the message to carry the cross daily is to bring the heart of Jesus to the events of our life. And Luke is making it clear that if we try to save our life, if we try to take the easy path, we can lose our life. But if we lose our life in the name of the gospel, then it will be saved. So it seems to me, again, it's one of those gospels that has very direct implications. It captures the meaning of Christ's ministry and the Son of Man. I think that title has a special significance. And it makes the point that what happens to me is something that can easily happen to those who follow me.
David, you've affirmed what I was sort of wondering, that this gospel must have been significant in the Lucan community. A gospel story that seems to be one, the affirmation of which, "Who do you say that I am?" held that ability to keep the founding faith community together as one, and that journeyed with those initial believers through the early centuries of the church, and continues to be as equally, if not more important, for us in church today to be able to respond to that question, "Who do you say that I am?" in order that we keep Jesus at the very heart and centre of who we are, what we do, and indeed at the very centre of the church's life.
And the Jesus whom he points to as suffering.
Yeah.
And we're going, I make that point because I feel a lot of people make Jesus something else.
Yeah.
And the rest of the gospel is explaining that aspect that he's making sure.
No, thank you.
No, I was going to say this, it's not clear to me. I find this passage a little strange because to the question, "Who do you say that I am?" It's, to me, yes, it's a question I hear today But it's an unusual question to ask a group of people. Like, what do the crowd say? What do you say? And Peter's the one who answers straight up. But because I'm reading it now, I think to myself, oh goodness, he loses that sense of Jesus' identity along the way. And I wonder, is that intentional? That Peter answers so quickly then, but not too distant, when the daily cross really, when you have to hold that cross. But at the same time, I think that's what I find most interesting about it as well. Am I prepared to hold those crosses and follow Jesus on those days where really, this, do I have to do this? Yeah, so and then the part that says don't tell anybody yet, as though they don't understand it yet.
That's right.
They don't understand it yet, hold back. Anyway, I
think that's interesting. I'm not just sure, but I think it's Luke who records that Jesus looked at Peter.
Yes.
And just taking up your point there, that he, in a sense, he sort of forgot who Jesus was for the moment, but immediately when Jesus looked at him, it came back to him and realised what he'd done. Yeah. It's a very important moment. Yeah.
And it occurs to me that when you embrace the wholeness of who this Jesus is and bringing in the point of suffering, I think of those we receive into church through the RCIS at Easter, the fervour that's theirs, but how do we sustain when they are confronted with the other side of the coin to hold that? How do we do that for ourselves?
Yes. St. Anthony of Egypt said, always be a beginner. Yeah. In other words, there's that enthusiasm in the beginning. How do we keep it up? We invite you now to spend a bit of time, not spend a bit of time, to listen to the reading again and perhaps just look at it in the light of the comments that we have made.
Once when Jesus was praying alone with only the disciples near him, he asked them, "Who do the crowd say that I am?" They answered, "John the Baptist, but others Elijah, and still others that one of the ancient prophets has arisen." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered, "The Messiah of God." He sternly ordered and commanded them not to tell anyone, saying, "The Son of Man must undergo great suffering and to be rejected by the elders, chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised." Then he said to them all, "If anyone wants to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will save it."
The application of our scriptural reading to our life is really the key to our dialogue with the scriptures. So we'd like to share with you now just a few points that we ourselves took out of the text, and later we'll give you time to do the same, things that we can apply in our life. I've always been struck by take up your cross daily. And I think what you were saying about Peter earlier, that in a sense he sort of lapsed by not being conscious of this was when he had to take up the cross. And I think it's forgetting the presence of God in our life that causes us so many things. So that the building up of the presence of God means that we're not going to have those lapses that we might have if we're sort of taken unaware. So my application out of that was to try to bring the heart of Jesus much more consciously to the things in my life.
And following on from that, for me, the word that just jumps out is daily. But in a way, if I break it down, if I pick up the cross, I only need to do it just for today. So for me, it's a great inspiration or hope that, if I feel as though I'm carrying a burden sometimes in a way, just to do it a day at a time.
Yes.
It makes it manageable. Just today I will do my best to follow Jesus, just for today, rather than feel as though I'm
That's right.
have to lead some perfect life.
That's right.
Whereas it breaks
Overcome
it down. I'll just do my best on this day and try again tomorrow. It's a bit of encouragement along the way, because if I have to hold that cross forever above, I may not even pick it up.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Prayer is something that comes to mind for me, and I think it's very easy for me to allow prayer to go on the slippery slide downhill. And yet if I profess this Jesus to be Lord and all the implications of that, then I've got to find the way in the journey of life, in the here and now, not tomorrow, but in the here and now, to allow that proclamation of faith to just become part of the fabric of my own being, in that sense that I can not just call to God when I find the chips are down, the going tough, but all the time my faith in God invites me to the embrace of both sides of the coin of that relationship, the good time and the difficult, the struggles, the crosses. So the challenge to reflect on who do you say that I am, and to really wrestle with that to an outcome where it can become where my response can become true.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Virginia. We invite you now to just look in your own life and see if you can draw out something concrete and practical that you can implement in your own life. We are humbled by our interaction with the Scriptures, and that means we need to turn to God with confidence that God will give us the strength that we need to implement what we have chosen to do. Take a moment now to spend in prayer asking God to do that. thank you for being with us again for these reflections on the Gospel presented by the Centre for Christian Spirituality. We hope you will join us for the commentary on next week's Gospel. However, now we would like to conclude by praying together the prayer, the collect from the liturgy of the 12th Sunday of Ordinary Time. Grant, O Lord, that we may always revere and love your holy name, for you never deprive of your guidance those you set firm on the foundation of your love, through Christ our Lord.